Welcome to Catastrophic Events Earthquakes. So, what is an earthquake? Formal definition: shaking and vibrating of Earth caused by a sudden release of energy. Most earthquakes are caused by shifting tectonic plates. Some earthquakes are also caused by volcanic eruptions. Most earthquakes happen around the plate boundaries. The tectonic plates are like pieces of the Earth's crust that have broken, and where they rub together, earthquakes happen. They can also happen around volcanoes. 80% of the world's earthquakes happen around the Ring of Fire. That's the Pacific Plate and the boundaries between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate and all the other plates. That's where also most of the world's volcanoes exist. 15% of the world's earthquakes happen in an area called the Mediterranean Himalayan Belt. And you can see that runs from between Africa and Europe all the way through over to China. And 5% of the world's earthquakes happen in an area that's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's called the Mid Atlantic Ridge. It's an underwater mountain chain. What is magnitude? This is a little bit tricky. Most people have heard of something called the Richter scale. The Richter scale is a very old way of measuring earthquakes, and people still use that term, but actually, we're using now something called the moment magnitude scale that was developed in the 1970s. It's the same general concept as the Richter scale, but it's a lot more accurate. And with modern technology, they're able to measure things a lot more efficiently and exact. So, what it's doing is it's measuring the amount of energy that's released when there's an earthquake. So if you look at this, it's pretty amazing that you can see that there's a million earthquakes or more every year. They're happening all the time. But the ones that are the most catastrophic, those don't happen very much. But you can see the ones that are most catastrophic as the magnitude 10, how much energy is released. It's incredible. So here's something to compare the difference between a magnitude 5 and a magnitude 9. It's a big difference. It's not just saying that 5 to 6 is one step up and 6 to 7 is another step up. It's huge. It's a huge difference. The For every 2 units of magnitude, so 2 magnitude is 1,000 times the energy of the one before it. So going from a 5 to a 7 is 1,000 times more powerful. That's crazy. So here's what we have. A minor earthquake is considered something of a magnitude 3.9 or less. You wouldn't feel it. They happen all the time and you can't feel it. Light, magnitude 4 to 4.9, maybe you'd feel a little tiny bit. Something considered moderate would be a magnitude 5 to 5.9. Here's an example. In Italy in 2017, there was a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. That's quite a bit of damage compared to just some chairs being knocked over. Strong is a magnitude 6 to 6.9. In New Zealand in 2011, there was a 6.1 magnitude earthquake. Major, magnitude 7 to 7.9. In Indonesia, 2018, a 7.5. Catastrophic is a magnitude 8 or higher. Japan, 2011, had a 9.0 magnitude earthquake. When we measure the magnitude of an earthquake, we're measuring the amount of energy released. Another scale is the intensity scale. This is measuring the amount of damage that was done. This is called the modified Mercalli intensity scale. And as you can see, this is very subjective. This requires people to report their findings after the fact. In 2001, the Seattle earthquake had a magnitude of 6.8. If we look at the damage done to the buildings and to the roads, We can then look at the intensity scale and give it a rating of an 8. An 8 is considered severe because of all the damage that was done. Japan, 2011, magnitude 9. What intensity do you think that is? If you say anything less than a 10, you're crazy. Let's look at a few pictures from some earthquakes and the damage that was done and see if we can rate the intensity. How much damage do you think was done here? We can see the chimney fell, so we can look at the scale and figure out what happened there. And if you look at the rest of the picture, what do you think? The road is cracked. Doesn't look like any damage was done to those buildings. What do you think? Whoa, that's quite a bit of damage. Let's take a look at the scale. What do you think? This is a little bit curious. If I lived in that building, I would rate this as a 10. But what about those other buildings? They look fine. It doesn't look like there's any damage at all. How would you rate this one? The earthquake in 2001 in Seattle caused quite a bit of damage. We live on something called the Cascadia subduction zone, and that could cause a problem. This is where two plates are coming together and one is sliding underneath the other one. So the Juan del Fuca plate and the North American plate, and they're being pushed by the Pacific plate, and all of this coming together in just the right place to cause us some problems. Let's compare damage that was done in earthquakes and the amount of time each one lasted. The Seattle 2001 earthquake was a 6.8, lasted for 40 seconds. There's the damage that was done. Kobe, Japan, 2010, 6.9, only 20 seconds. What's the difference here? 40 seconds, half as long. 6.8, 6.9. Why is there so much more damage? Haiti, 2010, 7.0, 30 seconds. Kind of right in between, but even more damage. Japan, 2011, 9.0, 300 seconds. Wow. The differences have to do with the way the buildings are built, how prepared people are, and how long it lasts. Hi, kitty.